Greetings everyone, let's jump right in. Here at the bottom of the steps, after the landing there was one single step that tore out. Need to go ahead and get that rebuilt. The landing is attached pretty securely along the exterior walls, except for this corner here. I'm not all that impressed. In a previous video I added this 2x6 right here dropping down on the beam that's underneath. I'm going to go ahead and drop something down from this corner down to the floor as well. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to where you get updates when I post the latest video. You can also go down in the comments and ask questions, and I'll try my best to answer them. And also click that like button if you enjoy what you see. If you're interested in buying a house similar to the one in this video, I wrote an ebook that talks about how to find and buy inexpensive real estate. It's available on Amazon and as a PDF directly off my website, and I even offer a simple cash contract to help you put together your deal. Enjoy the rest of the video. Did some off-camera figuring I thought I'd explain to you. So I've got it temporarily secured over here just to kind of get it in place where it didn't shift this way or out this way any. And then I dropped a level on it and I could see that this side was low, but this is level. So I measured from here to here. It was 16 inches. Then I measured from here to here and it was about 16 3/8 or so. So that's from the floor going across the room this way has got a sag in it, and then I leveled out the steps so it's a little bit higher right here versus over at the wall where it can't sag. So what I've got to do is shim this side of this step up. It'll be a little off here, but this line and this line will be parallel, which will look better. What I've done is I've ripped a piece of 3/4 inch OSB. It's actually a piece of Advantech subflooring. And then in the center, I've got some shims. So I've got it marked where those things are going to go. So I'm going to pop this up, secure that piece of OSB, and then I'll run in all those pocket screws and tie this piece to the floor, and then I can put the tread on. Well, that wraps up fixing up the staircase, making it safe. This wall was framed in. The only thing I think I didn't show is that 2x4 you see running at an angle underneath the stringer. It's acting as a ledger board. The stringer is basically sitting on top of that. It's also nailed off into the studs. Then the top of the stringer for the staircase is better attached now up into the framing that I added. Little step replaced. On this end, the opening is a rough opening for a 24-inch door. It's as big as I could go and have things done right. Having that header and all this framing going up is better supporting the opening for the staircase. And then in that last video you saw me fitting a 2x4 into the wall. That's just where I could frame out this rough opening properly. So time to move on to the next step. Today's a sad rainy day, so I'm just going to spend time in the house taking care of small things and bringing you along the best I can. Starting out at the top of the staircase and the ceiling, I need to get in there and do some light framing to bring that down to the same level as the rest of the living room for drywall. Here we are looking up into the space. This joist is slightly shifted off towards this side, so I'm going to put my new joist on this side. So I could have just put some sort of little 2x4 to skin it down, but since this is at the top of the landing, I'm going to go ahead and double it up. I've got the material. See if this can fit in. I think I'm going to have to condense it. It's going to need a trim job. Trim job is done. Alright, I think I can beat it in place. First, we like to be friendly. Try a small hammer. If we need to, we can get nasty. Alright, I'm going to jam a 2x4 under there and jack it into place. For the last part, over here on the wall, I don't need a full joist put in like that. I need just a little bit to shim it down, so I'm going to, I might have messed up. I might pretend I didn't mess up for a minute. It's going to stay like that. Just going to shim this down and then cut a piece. About 1.5 inches. A lot of doing renovations is rigging stuff up, if that's not obvious. Yeah, I got off, but I got off because I counted on the house being straight. So this was a 2x8. The rest of these doubled up joists are 2x8s. So I put this one here. Now this one's up too high. So what it would do is it would cause a kink in the drywall right here. So I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to put 1.5 inches here, and then I'm just going to run a little small strip of something just tacked up here just to shim down the drywall. And like I said, renovations, it's all a rig job. Rig job does not always mean something bad, though. It just means you got to get in there and rig it up to make it work sometimes. Otherwise, you're rebuilding. Moving on, one of the next things I need to do is put a 2x4 right in there for nailing for drywall. In the front upstairs bedroom, I ended up making a change, and that was to take down this workbox and replace it with that one, and that is one made for mounting a ceiling fan. Since it's got high ceilings in the wintertime, the heat will rise and that fan will help to circulate it, and then it will just be a nice thing on warmer days as well. In the back bedroom, I think what I'm going to do is add one here. So what I'm going to do is remove, there's a workbox right here. You'd see it if it wasn't so bright. And that one I have run up, over, and down, and it's on this switch. So I'm going to remove that, reroute that wire right here, and then just have two switches here, one for the lights, one for the fan, and that will eliminate this box right here. I've now decided I think it is not necessary, and I'd rather run a wire up here for a fan. I bought this at Lowe's. Here's the box if you'd like to look for it. More floor screws. Oh shoot!
Holy moly.
Next I need to relocate this wire that goes down to the receptacle, but I've already stapled it off, so you're all familiar with these wire staples from the last video. Now to get these out, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. If they're kind of tight to the wire, it's kind of hard to do anything with it, so a lot of times I'll put a screwdriver against the side and hammer a big flat wide screwdriver and hammer, and it'll make one side come up. Then you can kind of pry it off somehow. But if you use these flat style nippers, you can come up beside the wire. Just make sure you don't pinch the wire, obviously. Pinch the staple. You can either just cut it or you can just roll up like that and then go to the other side and roll up. And then next thing you need to do is get yourself a nice anvil and some proper hammers, and then you can straighten these out and reuse them in a future project. As most of you figured, the advice I gave in the last video about wire staples was total hogwash. So I want to straighten it out by saying, when you come through a hole, or you come close to this bracket, or one of your work boxes for switches, receptacles, lights, whatever you're installing, you want to have one of these fairly close to that. I think the code is 2 inches, but you know, I don't know. They're flexible on this kind of stuff. When it comes through this hole, put a staple close to that hole. When you come up to this bracket or one of your work boxes, go ahead and put another staple, and then you want to put enough along the wire to support it. I don't know what the actual distance is. I just make it to where it looks very well secured, and you should be fine. And your thing you don't want to do is staple it right there. Reason, because when the drywallers come in and they miss something, they can put a screw right into it. It goes up here in the middle. You don't stick it way up here either, because if it's ever a re-roof job done in the future, you can send a nail right into it. So stick it right in the middle. This applies for pretty much anything, but then you have to use common sense for if you're doing something a little outside of the norm and you need to shift it one way or another, knowing you're going to be doing something, you got to kind of take that into account. And one thing you can do, a lot of people don't realize this, is when you're working on something with a building permit, I guess even if you weren't using a building permit, which you should if you're doing anything that requires a building permit, and your local building department can tell you if you need one, is you can call them and get advice from your the building department. So you just call them up, tell them you need some advice or want to know exactly how they'd like to see something get done. Describe it to them, and they will tell you that most of the time. They can also even come out to your house and tell you what to do in person or check something ahead of time. And I asked them why they do that one time, and their general answer was they just don't want to see people doing stuff wrong, not for code reasons, but just to where they don't have to put somebody through the ringer of making them redo something. So do lots of staples. gingerly tap them into place. Do not bite into the wire. Do not let it start glowing red or sparking. So let me get this stapled up and we will move on to the next thing. One thing you can do that a lot of people recommend, you see that little extra loop of wire? Right there. A lot of people will leave that little extra bit up there, and then in case something goes wrong, like you need to replace something later, and your wire's getting a little shorter, you can pull a little bit out of the ceiling. That little piece up in there allows you to continue to pull wire out, but it won't let the wire go back out of the box. And that just gives you a little bit of leeway. Also, if you just want a little extra wire when you're wiring in your light or whatever it is you're wiring up, you can just pull a little bit out and have some extra. And I don't know if I have it right or wrong, but in the case of a pile of wires coming down one stud or across any piece of the framing, you can kind of divide them up into different staples. Don't put too many in each staple as I directed in that video. Here you see 2 number 12s in each staple, so 4 wires coming down. There they are stapled again. Coming into the box, and I may have more wires in this box than I'm supposed to. They'll let me know if I do. There's what the box says, at least. Secures 2 conductors, 14, 12, and 10. So that's referring to the gauge. NM cables means non-metallic, which is what my Romex is. Well, that wraps things up. The wire from this box has been relocated up to the new ceiling fan bracket, and that box down there will get removed at some point. One semi-silly cheapskate move that I did upstairs in the wall that divides the bedroom from the bathroom is nail these blocks in areas where I needed drywall backing. Walls intersecting other walls don't always fall right where a stud is, so you have to come back in and add some sort of backing for that drywall to be nailed off in, and I kind of cheapskated out and just nailed in some offcuts. But I'm going to knock those out and add 2x4s, full-length 2x4s into those places to make sure I don't have cracked corners.
Can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrendered? Throw this curse in the sea. If bravery was the moment you saved me, was it hope if not maybe? You have done it again. If I fail, cast me down like a snake could. Cut my teeth in some backwards, not in my own home. And the truth cuts like a sword in the fire. In my innermost desire, will hold true in the end. Can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrendered? Throw this curse in the sea. Can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrendered? Throw this curse in the sea. Can you show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrendered? Throw this curse in the sea. show me if the season is ending? Is this hardship surrender? Throw this curse in the sea, like the starter. New year like a fountain, drain their water.
So as a follow-up, what that creates is this nice nailing surface for the drywall that comes in and meets this wall. Another one right in here, which is here from the other side. And then on the inside of the shower, you've got that one. Then I nailed in a couple over there as well. The top of the table is looking very nice, but I think I want to go one more coat. There's a few places on there, right in this area, for example, where I can see that this coat absorbed into the surface. So the next coat, with a very, very, very light sanding between this one and the next one, I should get a really nice, even sheen. To where I don't mess up my final coat of finish, I'm going to go ahead and sand and finish the base first. Then I'll do the top. That way I don't get any of the dust that I stir up and get in the air on the top itself. I'll go ahead, do the base, let my air filter run for a little bit. That'll clear the air, and then I'll finish the top.
Game begin.
For attaching a tabletop, I use these little tabletop fasteners. I get them through McFeely's. I buy them in big boxes, but you can buy them in small quantities as well, and then you just use a washer head screw. For getting them attached, you need a slot in the apron of your table, and for that I use a biscuit joiner. So I just mark out where I want tabletop fasteners, and then I make a cut with the biscuit joiner. You just want to set it down to the right depth. Hope you all enjoyed the inclusion of this mini-series building the farm table from wood pulled out of the $9,000 house. Next up, I'll be taking this table to the retail location where I sell my furniture, hopefully sell it soon, and put that money right back in the house. The next thing I want to do is start tightening up my wiring starting here in the living room. This has been a temporary work box with one switch running the living room lights, so I want to remove this, put in a 3-gang box. One switch will control the front porch light, one switch will control the lights in the living room, and one will be a 3-way switch that works the light in the stairwell. And then I'll also be getting all the other wiring in the house that I had not yet stapled to the studs, stapled to the studs. Just for reference, I place all of my switches 48 inches to the bottom of the workbox. I'm sure there's a range of what is normal, but that's what I put them at. And I'll end up reusing this box somewhere. Well, you've all made it close to the end of the video yet again. Thank you all for joining me up until this point. I will be sneaking in fun nuggets along the way, so don't tune out just because you think I'm ending the video. I want to do this a little different, just a nice calm fireside style woman-to-woman chat to close out the video. First, we're going to get the finances out of the way. The link to my book and the example contract that I offer will be in the description below. The book is Cheap Houses, How I Find and Buy Inexpensive Real Estate. It's on Amazon and as a PDF on my website. $4.99, and it tells you how to go about finding really cheap houses. You get all kinds of people in the comments always saying they don't have houses that cheap in my area. Well, you live in the wrong place for it, I guess is the easiest way to say it. You're not going to be able to find a great deal on a house in the middle of Central Park or other places similar to that. But with that said, good deals exist everywhere. The price just might be higher, but the difference between normal priced and your cheap good deal you got is still great, and there's a lot of profit available. Or move, do whatever you got to do. But this book just lays out how to find those cheap houses. Does not tell you how to, do anything else other than that. That's one question I get a lot is, it's like somebody buys Oreos and they ask, does ketchup come with that? This book is just what it is, and it tells you in the description. It tells you in the title. The title is exactly what this book is and nothing more. It's about 10 pages, about, normal paper as far as size of pages. The contract is a one-page contract, so this big. It's that big, everything's on it in normal font, and it just tells you how to kind of set up a contract. There's an example of the actual contract, but then there's 3 pages that goes along with it as a PDF that explains kind of how to alter it and kind of what things are. But in short, I think a simple, short contract is best. That does not mean that it does not include any, exclude anything. It just means that it's got what it needs in it. And that's for cash sales. Cash sales are very simple. You're basically normally buying something sold as is, and that's it. Moving on, the donation links I've been putting in the descriptions. I want to say thank you to all of you that have been contributing here to the channel, putting that money directly towards the channel in the form of, say, camera equipment, editing stuff, the music. I've been getting a lot of people complimenting the music in these videos lately. That's not, I'm not producing that music. That's just a music service that I've signed up for, which gives me a lot of availability, and then I can go through it and find something that I think is a good fit, which is not a strong point of mine. So I've been pleased that people have been happy with the music. A lot of people also say, I wish you wouldn't put music on these videos and just let us hear the sounds. It would sound awful. When you cut up a video and it's like, I'm listening to the radio 1 second, I'm hammering on something, and the circular saw turns on, and I don't have enough time to do that much sound editing. So in those times when I'm using music, a lot of times I'm listening to the radio. So that's copyright infringement. I can't play Johnny Cash singing on YouTube and expect to earn a dime. That just doesn't work that way. These videos are monetized, so I have to use royalty-free music, which is the services that I sign up for. And just in general, when people do those little donations like that, it just takes the edge off of how much time goes into the editing of the videos, much less the actual filming and slowing down the overall project. So thank you to those of you that have done so. What's next? I've got a cheat sheet today. On that same note, sponsors. Y'all have been seeing sponsors in the last video. It was Simply Safe, which I am extremely glad to get sponsors. The first 5-6 years that I did YouTube, it was a tough thing to do. Now I had a lot less responsibilities then, so it wasn't that big of a deal, wasn't hurting anything. But what I wrote on my paper here is, I'm a grown man with a family and no longer a 14-year-old girl that I once was. Basically, I had to make the channel profitable, and basically make it profitable or leave it in the past and just stop doing videos. And that's no threat to anybody. I don't want people to trying to donate the dollar they shouldn't donate or anything like that. That's just something I put there because a lot of people asked, and I'm just too lazy to set up Patreon and didn't feel like it anyway, and so I just put that there as a PayPal button. So I think that is it. Yeah. My favorite comment lately, and I saw it today, and I don't even know if I'm reading it the right way as far as its meaning goes, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. The way I interpret that, and I think I'm right, is that that basically people will see somebody like me or somebody, really successful or just anything, and they'll go, that person sure is lucky. But it's usually because there's a lot of hard work has been put forth, and everyone else doesn't see that. It's that whole thing, what's it called? Basically you do something stupid, everybody seems to find out about that, but all those good things you do throughout the day, you never get credit for that type of thing. And so I think that's sort of what this is basically saying. But really, because a lot of people will see me that I say a lot, I don't fool with a lot of people. One of my friends said I'm the most famous hermit he knows, meaning that I have these videos because he thinks it's funny how many people watch these videos for a guy who doesn't fool with that many people in real life. But basically, when you work hard, it's like you're just uncovering opportunity. And in one of my last videos, I don't know if it was the last one or the one before that, I think it was 2 videos ago, I said something, and then people said it has a name, zero-sum game. But basically that there's no such thing as limited success. Now, I mean, technically speaking, if every single person in the whole world went, 100 miles an hour, full ambition, you'd run out of some opportunity. But in the real world, that's just not going to happen. And I got a lot of people kind of jumping on me for different things, saying things aren't equal, this and that, for all the different reasons, not, saying anything specific there. And I'm not going to touch on this too much because people are too jumpy on these different topics and think they'll just assume the worst because that's what they want to hear, just to where they can get riled up. And that's not really what I mean in any of this. But just don't let anybody tell you what you can't do because of what you are, who you are, where you're from, or anything like that. Just pretend what it is you want to do is all you want to do, and you don't know anything about what should hold you back. And there are great examples of success of all different types of people, and having an attitude of I can't do it for some specific reason ahead of time is a real good way to not succeed at something. So I kind of got away from the harder you work, the luckier you get, but I just really like that. I don't know who said it. It was the person in that comment asked who said this. Least favorite comment, and this is a great thing to follow up everything I just talked about pretty much, is this is a general theme. This isn't a specific topic. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Don't address the trolls. And what that is it's people, I think they think they got my back when they tell me to not address negative comments, basically. And thinking that every comment that isn't a pat on the back is somebody being a troll. And I mean, a troll is when somebody tells you they just hope something terrible happens to you. I've had some crazy comments, and I've always thought they were really funny. But just because somebody says something is not positive doesn't make them a troll, and it doesn't mean it doesn't warrant explanation too. A lot of the positive comments on YouTube are people just saying, "You're such an inspiration," keep up the good work. There's not a lot you can do with that. But when somebody says, you're a beep beep, why would you waste all your time doing this? You should do this, 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 and this. Well, that brings up very specific points that you can talk about. And it's not just strictly to comment to that person. But it could be general themes that people are thinking. And I like talking about those different things. They're often really good questions. And a lot of times it would be they're right. They have harsh delivery, but they're right. I'm just one person with very, very low overhead with the different ways that I make an income. So sometimes I'm able to string out a project a lot longer. And I'm also making these videos, so this is part of what I'm doing. So I have to take the time to make these videos. Sometimes I'll be working on part of a project, and I could go this way or I could go that way. And making these videos can influence the direction that I go. I go, well, it would be more interesting for people if I did this. Or, I go, oh, if I don't do this, they're going to harass me. Even though it doesn't really matter. It's just some words on the screen, Okay. So basically, the gist of what I'm saying is when people say, don't address people, those are like, or you shouldn't feel like you need to defend this or that. Those are the only comments usually that make me go, I don't like it when people do that, because it's almost like it negates the whole point you had in commenting on or replying to someone's comment, when sometimes those comments, in my opinion, lead to some of the most constructive parts of tips you give people, or advice, or or when I'm just trying to be inspirational and I tell somebody, you know, you got to come up off all your dumb ideas. And I get the craziest numbers calling me lately. But yeah, good time to get a call and get distracted. Let's go right into not common questions. Questions people have been asking lately. These are either common questions or either just specific ones that I thought were funny or just one that I wanted to answer. Everyone and their mama asks, wouldn't it have been easier or cheaper or whatever, smarter to tear down the house and rebuild it? Now, I've answered this a lot, but I get a lot of questions across my videos. And it just comes down to I am doing what I'm doing. Is it cheaper? I think it's cheaper to do what I'm doing because of the price that I'm buying places. Now, if I was buying the houses you see me buying for, I don't know, $75,000 to $100,000 and then spending $20,000 or $30,000 to get them fixed up, yeah, you're right up there, probably close to what you could build something for. But with buying a house for $12,000 and spending, you know, $10,000, $15,000 to $20,000 on it, and you've got $30,000 to $40,000 at most in these houses, I think it's better to do what I'm doing. Also, I'm making these videos. I just basically mentioned that. I don't think it'd be very entertaining to just see new houses get built again and again. Especially, I think if you just built new houses, you would get kind of a standard that you would just replicate again and again and again. And where that would be good business-wise, you know, just to do that and not have anything to do with YouTube. I think for what I'm doing, it's all around best what I'm doing. I also like fixing up old houses. I don't really like doing houses as rough as I'm doing anymore. I would like to, like the next house that I'm doing, nowhere near as rough as the $9,000 house. So I'm looking forward to that one. It's like actually an interesting house to start with, and it's one that I'm going to live in afterwards. So that will be kind of fun because I'll approach it differently as far as details, the budget, creative, all that kind of stuff. Next question. Can you link to what respirator you use? I get asked this a lot. It's just a normal 3M respirator. I think they're like $16 or $17 on Amazon, but you can't buy one right now. Guess why? As far as the filters that go in it, I just get those round, like wider light blue gray dust filters. Just get any of the dust filters. They're super duper light. You don't need to wear organic vapor filters when you're just working in a dusty environment. It's really heavy on your face and it wants to pull down, hurt your nose. Those little round fabric-y ones, they are super light. And wearing a respirator is a lot more comfortable than it is wearing a mask. I always thought it was funny when people told me to wear a dust mask. Well, now you all see how much it sucks to wear masks. But a respirator is not like that. You're inhaling through the filters and then down out of the front of the mask. It's got a little valve in there. Next question. How many nails do you figure you put through that Harbor Freight nail gun? A lot. I have used the snot out of that Harbor Freight nail gun. And I'm not sure which one of the Harbor Freight models it is, but it's just the normal one that aped the Porter Cable design. And it is a good nail gun. And I barely even oil it. You know, every once in a while it'll kind of misfire and I'll just spray the whole thing down with WD-40 and keep on rolling. Also use a lot of nails when I'm nailing stuff in. If it's something I'm sure I don't have to pull apart, you know, I go ahead and nail it real good. I'm using ring shank nails a lot of the times. When I'm just inside doing normal framing, I'm just using smooth shank, you know, interior type nails. Anything outside is galvanized ring shank, which are some tough things to pull out. Get a lot of people from other countries that ask about screws a lot. Why not use screws? Screws are incredibly slow. They're unnecessary in a lot of situations. They're great when you need them, you know, when you need to pull things together, but they're just not necessary all the time. I use screws when I think screws are necessary, but a lot of times screws are the wrong thing to use. There's plenty of times where nails are better as far as the actual usage of them. In the end, like once they're both in place, they're just as good as each other, but actually using them, so a lot of times the nails are much easier. Next question. What's the name of that song? I will never answer that. Reason, because I don't have enough time. I never look at the names of songs. Sometimes I feel like a jerk. I've never answered it, or I give people really sarcastic answers. I use royalty-free music for that reason, because you don't have to get into all that type of thing. Where is the house? No. Next question. Is that mold on the wall under the basement steps? People ask often, why is all the wood in this house so dark? I would ask you in 100 years to compare the color of your skin to what it was when you were a baby. And that's how I'll answer that question. This house is old. All this wood was reclaimed wood back when this house was built, whenever it was built. It is some old stuff. It is a mix of pine and oak and poplar. It's all kinds of stuff. So it was all old and dirty, could have sat outside. I mean, who knows? It's just old wood. It's not moldy, though. I mean, of course, there's going to be some mold in a house. There's mold in your new houses. If you don't think it is, you're wrong. I have crawled up in people's attics doing favors, working for people, seen, renovations being done on houses that were 5 years old, and there's all kinds of stuff going on in houses. Just because a house is old, new, does not mean it's okay. The way they build houses now, it's almost like you build it as a thermos. And it's great as long as no moisture gets in, but once moisture gets in and it can't escape at all, old houses are great because they could breathe more. And yeah, it might have water running inside the wall for years and years and years, but then right after that it can dry out and that vapor can escape. Now, once you go renovate it and you modernize it and people start putting house wrap and insulation and doing everything, you got to make sure that thing's watertight, because if it's not, you can end up with a serious problem. Next question. I have to know, how do you like the new Milwaukee cordless tools? I love them. They're really, really nice when they're working. I have had some issues with my drills and drivers just like starting to malfunction at times, and I had to replace one set. But when they're working, they're so powerful, and the batteries just last a long time, but mainly how powerful these things are. I'm sure DeWalt is just as good and other makers, but I just kind of got hung up on Milwaukee, and that's what I've got. How do you know so much? So this is in regards to just stuff I do in videos, whether it be like the trades or the business side of it. I just do it. I'm 33 years old, by the way. People ask how old I am all the time. By the time you're 33 years old, you better be well on your way to doing something. If you want to be, successful. Financially successful, that is. I don't mean that in any kind of mean way. As soon as you talk about money, everybody gets so sensitive. But you got to be having something established by then. I got started doing this stuff, I think, when I was 23 or 4. Somewhere around there is when I bought my first house. And it was just a piece of junk, and I just worked on it and figured it out as I went. And I didn't have a smartphone at the time, so I called people. Sometimes it was calling the building department, asking them what to do, what they want to see, and they eventually told me to, I was kind of hassling them a lot, so they told me that, it was limited what they could tell me, basically. I know people who were like, a plumber, and I would call them and ask them over the phone and just try to explain it to them what I was doing. I had some books about doing some different things, and I would Google things once I got home. Once I got this thing, my God, you're a genius. You can do anything once you have a smartphone with you and a good enough connection. That'll get some people riled up. But it's just the way it is. It's just information is not hard to get anymore. And that's really most of what learning is just access to information. There's plenty of things where you do need that specialized one-on-one training with a person. But how to wire a receptacle is not a hard thing. You can just look at a picture and go, okay, the black wire goes on this post, the white wire goes on this post, and the ground goes there. Now, there's a little more to know to things, but over time, you basically just pick stuff up. So I learned everything just from doing it, not from some school or not from access to some genius or anything like that. Again, don't let stuff like that hold you back. Aren't building permits required to do this work? Yes. Just because I don't wave it around in every video does not mean I don't have a building permit. The follow-up to that comment was, well, you're going to fail your inspections because of this work you do. I very well may fail certain parts of the inspection. It doesn't bother me. I just get the bulk of the work done. They come in, they see something, and it might not be right, and they go, well, just add another 2x4 right there, or switch out those receptacles, or you needed this certain breaker here, or, you got this fitting upside down, or whatever it is. they'll catch stuff. But in general, a lot of the stuff that would fail you just doesn't really matter as much. And then the other thing, when I say it doesn't matter as much, I'm just saying they're not going to fail you. They'll go, okay, it's fine, but you know, you should have done this. Also, I'm doing renovations. They are way more flexible than a new build is. When you do a new build, you got to build it right to new modern code. When you're doing a renovation, you're grandfathered into stuff. So when you have to come in and alter things, you're not held up to that same standard. A lot of times what they'll do is the guy will just say, okay, you know, when I come back to do the next inspection, you know, just have done this and just show it to me. Or sometimes they don't even do that. They'll just say, you know, add in a few more 2x4s there just to make me feel good. And I'll go, well, do you need me to not drywall that part? And he'll go, no, I trust you. That's another thing, too, is getting and keeping a good relationship with the building department. So I think that's it. Final question, how's the progress on the concrete block?
Thought you got away with it. Thought I wasn't gonna come back. Oh no. Thought I just left you alone. Look at you. Falling apart. You didn't expect me to knock that part off last time, did you? Cut you down 6 inches. You gonna sit there, all defense?
I need safety glasses.
Whoa.
Think we got something. We got nothing. We got something.
Right off the top. Get some.
Close-up action. Slow action. Watch your sucker bust. Technique down. Technique. Practice. Going out and finding another ones. Busting those out. Keep my technique. Technique's wearing me out. Gentle taps. Strategically placed. Yeah. Stone croquet action. Right. Really hurts. Oh yeah. Hold you down. Oh, too excited. Yeah. Golly. You're just giving up, aren't you? All right. Let you just sit there and think about it.